Hi Cancer. Welcome to your April horoscope and tarottorecovery. This is for Cancer, Sun, Moon and Rising, or if you feel an affinity to Cancer as a sign or a person. So Cancer, there is obviously this month the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is the biggest part of 2020 in some degrees. It occurs every 13 years. It usually has a lot of global impact. In fact, it always has a lot of global impact. This time it's occurring in Capricorn, but what does that mean for you in a personal level? Well, it is occurring in your partnership sector. You've learned a lot about love and romance. You've learned a lot about partnership. And to say that you've learned a lot would be an underestimation for some Cancers. A lot of you finally got the chance to be fully single. A lot of you finally got the chance to fully immerse yourself in what it means to be in a relationship, what you define as healthy and otherwise. For a lot of you, it was the breakdown of significant relationships. It was marriages falling apart, and some of you were lucky enough to have that go from strength to strength. This Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, Queen of Pentacles, is impactful. To have it in an earth sign, an energy that is harmonizing yet opposing for you, Cancer, really has a lot to say about the way that you value yourself in your relationships, the way that you connect with another person, the way that you feel about yourself when you're with people. How does that change? The Emperor. For a lot of you could have been involved with an Aries. For some of you, an earth sign, a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, but the energy remains the same. The Capricorn energy and the Aries energy of this season are impactful. Both fellow cardinals, both squaring off aspects in your chart. Chiron remains in Aries and sextiles Venus in your 12th house on the 10th of April. This brings a lot of perspective shifts. This brings a lot of conversations about who you are, where you're going, what your value is, what you're contributing. And for a lot of you, you're contributing an awful lot. The first row of your reading, very much to do with business. Very in particular for those of you that are self-employed. A lot of you are thinking long-term. A lot of you are thinking 5-year plans now, and you're seeing why maybe a change in location, maybe a change in perspective, maybe a change of business partners. That Jupiter-Pluto conjunction occurs in your partnership zone, which also impacts business. Around the same time, Venus in Gemini was trining Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius for you, of course, being a more intimate side, but also to do with joint finances. Trust your intuition as far as business opportunities go. I think you will have a keen sense of awareness where that is. And it could be very, very, very fulfilling if you go down this path with the lessons that you've learned over the last 3 years when Saturn was in that sector. So let's get to the other stuff. 8 of Pentacles. You've been working on how you see yourself for the last couple of years. And in particular this year, you've been working on how you view who you are. 4 of Pentacles. Where you shut down, where you clam up. Ace of Pentacles, particularly as far as money goes. A lot of you are starting to see that perhaps your limitations in terms of money was not the fear of success, but the fear of handling success. The fear of what would happen if I actually had this money. What would change? Who would change? A lot of the time with Cancers, I find that their sentimentality regarding family can result in fear of change. You guys are meant to lead, but sometimes the fear of change or unsettling things is what stops you in your tracks from doing something. When you know that it's in the greater good of your family, particularly if you have children, you're better at going forward. If you're absolutely unattached at the minute and you are feeling very supported by your family, I think in particular your parents, Cancer, although I suspect a lot of you are feeling very shaky as far as family is concerned, a lot of worries. I think a lot of you are very concerned over the Pentacles things in life, the education, the money, the stability. And that full moon in Libra, your sector of family, your sector of home, around the same time Mars was squaring Uranus, has probably unearthed a bit of a blind spot for you. A bit of a brush it under the carpet until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There is something to do with the home, to do with the family, that is making you feel quite dominated, quite restricted, and it's not necessarily even to do with quarantine. It could be going far back to a belief that lives within your psyche since you were a child, a dark fear, a sense of foreboding, something that you're very attached to. Be careful of imposing your beliefs too strongly on your children or your partner or whatever it is. Whomever it is. Especially if it's a Pisces or a Capricorn. Do not let your fears get the better of you. Do not let their fears get the better of you. Especially if it's a Pisces. Run parallel. Accept the dark and the light. Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Air sign energy. If you're dealing with an Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, particularly in a flirtation sense, I think you could feel quite out in the cold and rejected by that person and be wondering if there's anything more to it. Now, if you're dealing with an earth sign, I think it becomes inherently clear what's going on there, for better or for worse. I think probably for better. If it's an Aquarius, you could be feeling very, very suspicious of them. And if it's a Libra, they are not willing to add anything more to their plate. Take that as you will. But we'll get more into that in the extended. At the minute, Cancer, your focus on money needs to be adapted to reflect abundance. It needs to be shifted to believe that you can surpass a particular limitation I think you have in terms of visualizing a set number or a set skill set or a set wage, whatever it is. It's almost as if you have some limitations there regarding your financial situation, but I think this time of reflection in Aries season would be very good to look at, particularly if around the 10th, 11th, 12th you have some insecurities regarding your ability to make money. Great time to look at it. Now on the 14th, the Sun in Aries is going to square off with Pluto in your partnership zone, putting more pressure on business relationships and putting pressure again on your romantic relationships. Do not feed the fears. Do not get completely overburdened with this devil-like energy because it keeps you stuck. This will always keep you stuck. Pluto is asking you to see things from a different perspective. And the perspective that you need to see them from, Cancer, is your higher self, your spiritually aware, psychically aware. I know what I know. You can't tell me I know what I know. Don't gaslight me. I know what I'm thinking. And I know what I saw. And I know what I heard. That kind of energy. And at peace with it. Not necessarily confrontational, but at peace with what you know. Do not allow yourself to be gaslit by other people, particularly in business. You know what you know, right? For a lot of you that are dealing with an earth sign, if it is in business, they have great ideas. You have great ideas. But one of you needs to take the lead role and roll with it. There should not be a power struggle. One of you is the supportive, nurturing one, and one of you is the headstrong one that makes the bigger decisions. There is no balance. And that's the way that it's going to be successful for both of you, especially if that's in a romantic relationship. There needs to be some kind of harmony with each other's roles. Not necessarily gender-specific roles, but there is an imbalance in terms of who is pulling the weight romantically. And that needs to be addressed. And I think you get your way, whatever it is. 9 of Cups, you get your way. You're satisfied. You are content. Around the 2nd to 3rd week of April, you feel very content with what you're going to build for yourself in the future. And I think that what you're building for yourself, Cancer, is actually going to be very, very successful. provided you are not approaching it with a scarcity complex where you are frantically trying to make money for the sake of it. You need to step back into your power and see where your energy is more like a boss, more assertive, more confident. You understand what your skill set is. You are tapering it so that nobody else can take you over in that department. Even if you work in groups, if you're not self-employed, if you work in an environment with a lot of people, what you need to focus on, Cancer, is that you have a specific set of skills that nobody else has, and you need to make them so very unique that no one else can question them. And it's actually not about anybody else questioning them. It's about you being more sure of yourself. So that when you come up against going into Taurus season, when you come up against the idea that other people might try and walk all over you, you know what's best for you. Because you're not fighting your own inner demons so much. When you move into Taurus season, around the 20th, 21st, your perspective shifts entirely. It is less jarring. In fact, it is incredibly whimsical and magical. You see things for what they could be. You see things for how they can be more ideal than they are. You're more in harmony with things. You're more in flow with things. Around the 26th, Sun will conjunct Uranus in your 11th house. And you will have a sense that the powers that be are behind you in terms of making something happen like that. Lightning doesn't strike twice. In the last 4 days of April, make sure that you're very in alignment with what it is you want to see in your life. Make sure that you feel open to magic. Make sure that you feel open to manifestation. Make sure that you feel open to cooperation, helpfulness, and blending of energies. The High Priestess is beautiful because it's the dark and the light. And I think there's a bit of darkness to work through in Aries season in terms of how you want to progress in your career for the next 6 months. And although we're in uncertain times, Cancer, you are very much being asked to sit back and see what your skill set is. And to be a bit more assertive rather than scurrying sideways. Perhaps it took this time in quarantine or wherever you are to see how toxic something really was in terms of work. To see how manipulative somebody was, to see how abusive somebody was, to see how painful something was, and to see how something never really went away when it should have. And the thing about Pluto and Jupiter is that Jupiter magnifies Pluto's energy, and you can no longer ignore it, especially if it's a union gone sour, or especially if there is an imbalance in who's pulling their weight. And again, Cancer, I really think that regardless of what happens, I do think you get your way. The High Priestess and the Hanged Man are incredibly passive. In Taurus season, in the April Taurus season, you don't have to do much to get what it is that you want. And if you see someone behaving in a way that is not correct, all you have to do for the rest of the month is note it, watch it, observe it, think about it, process it, see what it means for you on a deeper level, on an instinctive level, and then we move into the magic of Taurus season and all becomes exceptionally clear. But it will be magical if you go into it with a strong sense of deserving the best. Because you do. I will see you in the extended, Cancer.